you remember from the introduction, I had already set up by part of the game. There's some decision making that has to be made in the setup. And what was done there is, for example, here, Bursberg, okay, it's Würzburg, the red player wanted that, and right, that's red, and that's down here, again, hard to read, but it's attractive, I can see. This is the same problem I had with Compasses, the God Kings, and it's terrible to see it, where the font chosen or whatever is just so hard for the modern mind to be able to read. At least, you know, maybe Germans are used to reading medieval manuscripts. But it just takes a significant bit more processing. Perhaps with time I'll get used to it, but we'll see. Certainly the rule book was impossible. So we have that with everyone. So Munster over here, yellow, with this idea of, hey, I connect up these trade routes. Well, I made it through everybody doing that until I got to the blue player, where I had a couple of choices, but I'm going to go with Galsberg, I think it is, or Karlsberg or something. It's hard for me to tell what that's supposed to be. I don't know where that is. But here's what's weird. So first of all, blue is in a horrible position where they didn't have anything that was clearly linked to something else. But I'm not sure this is not linked to this. Here's why. So most of these connections are just a little red line with a coin in it. And it looks like this connection goes to here. But here's what's going on. This is going off map and it goes boink, boink, 2 coins for some reason. It crosses this one. I don't know if there are others where there's a cross happening like that. Here's something with 2 coins again, and it seems to be going to 2 separate cities. So I think that this connects up to here and this connects up to here as well as connecting to here. I think that's what's being represented there. Again, there's no support in the rules for it one way or the other, but I'm going to say, for the sake of evenness, that's the case. Obviously, though, as you start to look at the board, you start to realize, wow, somebody who has sort of a geographic center to what they drew initially has a definite advantage, and it could be a humongous game-winning advantage right at the beginning of the game. I'm not quite sure, but it looks pretty potent. We'll see. If there's something that can overcome that, it's probably a lot of randomness everywhere else, which isn't going to appeal to the kind of Eurogamer that the mechanisms seem designed to appeal to. Now, we're working our way through here. Let's see the sequence of play. So sequence of play has this event cards phase. What it doesn't spell out here, and there isn't really a rich sequence of play, i.e. one that tells you vaguely what you do in it. What's not spelled out in the event card phase, oh god, that's phase, oh my god, is that the itinerant preacher gets handed out there. You kind of want the sequence of play, especially in a fairly simple game, to tell you the different things that happens. It would be wise if there was another phase for bidding for the itinerant preacher. If they're just going to use a single, line to describe it, here and whatever. Now here we have some interesting things. Hold on, Reichstadt. Oh, that's the cities, not the Reichsfried or whatever. Yeah, it's hard enough as it is. And something here, I think this is a monastery. Looks like Monafort. Okay. So now we continue with the setup, and everybody's got their income distributed. Now they get 2 mercenaries and a knight, and they get to put them secretly. And if they put them on their clerical holding, they make that clear. Now what does that mean? Does it mean that everybody sits around peeking at each other's cards and saying, yeah, I can see that you put on your monastery, then I'm going to change where, or on your clerical fief, then I'm going to change where I put it. That's kind of weird. There's no sequencing to this, so I'm guessing that, you know, you just wait until everybody says they're done, whatever that means. Well, no real conflicts came up in terms of that. Everybody set theirs up like this, and now we just reveal them. And again, my decision here was largely I want to have troops in general areas, although I don't really know that that's important. I think what's important is if you're adjacent to somebody, you want troops there in case they try to take you over. I tried to protect the ecclesiasticals, I guess, although this guy did not protect Wurzburg. He's in Bresgiaoui, wherever that is. He chose not to protect Wurzburg because that would, you know, telegraph that, hey, his knight's going to be in his ecclesiastical. But now what that means is his ecclesiastical holding is next to Grey's position. Grey could conceivably do something to take that over. And remember, he can just do a death of a lord to get, you know, if he has a claim card or something to go in there. We don't know what the you know, the distribution is placed here, so we can get an idea of what we have, but we don't know what cards we actually are holding at this point, even though I dealt them out. Anyway, I'll place everyone else out. Yellow, for example, was in a particularly good position where they wanted to put everything in this Gilburn, whatever, Geldern. So that's a G indeed, because, hey, they're not, oh, wait, that was a screw up. They've got Munster. They should have placed there because that's adjacent here, but they put everything there, whatever. We'll see if that screws them over. It's a similar kind of situation. And if you look here at Braunschweig, they're not actually adjacent to any enemies anywhere except here in Munster and this Geldern, which gives them an additional advantage on top of all their territories being connected. Now, Braunschweig is not connected by road, which means they won't get any economic advantage off of it. But in terms of, you know, a locality, it may make some difference. I'm not sure that there is really an advantage to locality if it's not connected by the roads because of the economics of the roads, simply because, hey, it's really more what you're connected to, but it opens them up to being able, you know, to expand in this direction where no one else really is, and that gives them some edges there. So I think yellow's got a fairly strong position here. I think brown has a nice little position here where they're going to be able to make a consolidated geographical area. And I think what we're going to see is the people who didn't start off with a strong geographical position are going to, you know, develop one, but they're behind, because they'll probably end up losing territories they can't defend. That's my guess, but we don't know how short this game is. I'm guessing probably about a deck, but we'll see. The next step in the setup is each player distribute, and remember, the prior one, there was no turn order imposed on it. Well, there doesn't seem to be here either. Each player distributes their 4 family control markers between profane and clerical education areas. Okay. I'm not quite sure why there isn't some kind of turn order here any more than there was in the other. I guess, again, you wait until everybody says, yeah, I'm good. Of course, in this case, people might be shifting back and forth, and you may never get beyond the setup of the game. That's a problem other games have. Pax Britannica's timing issues can very clearly cause that kind of thing. I wouldn't suspect this would. Now, the naive or simple thing to do would be simply to put 2 in each. However, you start to think when, you know, you're confronted with a new game, and you say, well, wait a minute. I may not be terribly interested in clerical. There may not be many near me. There aren't very many in total. So I've got to kind of start looking. Lutic, that's near me. Onnesbrook. I don't know if that's near me or not. It's up there. That's kind of far away. Bremen. And I start to make this kind of thinking. Take a look. Magdeburg is near me. So I think I will go with 2 in each. Because remember, there's the electorates as well, which might require that for red. But some other player may choose not to concentrate evenly. They may think, well, I don't have a lot of ecclesiastical fiefs near me, so I think I'll only put 1 towards there and focus more on the profane. Because there are more of them and more opportunities that way. We'll see. Well, all of those have been chosen. And you can see everybody's put at least 1 in the clerical, and nobody went 3 in the clerical. That seems a little excessive. So the cards are in hand. I haven't looked at them still, but you could conceivably look at them. The money's in place. The event deck's been constructed. The electors have been shuffled. The game always starts with the Reichsfrieden in effect. Now this is weird to me, because what I had gotten from the rules previously was that essentially the Reichsfrieden is almost always in effect. And when it's not, you're fighting a battle, basically. Which sort of, maybe there's something which negates that, but I can't find it. During the Reichsfrieden, it is not possible to start a war. It may be broken during the interface between the death of the old emperor and the election of the new emperor. And what we saw with that, again, this concept is not fully nailed down like anything. Maybe there's more meant to be here. See death of the emperor. Now, was that over here? Yeah. After the death of the emperor, a period of anarchy begins. You can start a feud, and you'll just get things immediately. There's a war that happens immediately before the feud happens. It looks like the main play of the game is always during peace, unless there's some event card which says otherwise. I could look at these names, and quickly scanning them, I can't see much that I can understand. I see like Miracle Healer, Pestilence. Do I see anything that says, here's the bitch in the blood, or something like that? Witch in the wood, I don't know. But there's like campaigns and stuff like that, and I don't know if those are going to cause a full turn where you can just attack people. The card had better have a lot of information on it, more than I want to read in the fonts that they're written in, if that's the case. But we'll see. It does seem, though, that peace... Yeah, the fact that it calls out that the game starts at peace seems to indicate to me that there may be some possibility that you play through full turns that aren't at peace. And that may be a pain in the ass to try to come up with the rules on the fly, if that's the case. So there we have a little bit of trepidation about where this is going to be going, because there sure ain't a lot of rules to support it. Now, I haven't printed out all of the rule book, but everything else that's here is just this, you know, a tutorial and the historical stuff. I read the historical stuff. I'm not going to read a damn tutorial, right? If you put your rules in the tutorial, you're doing it wrong. That's my view. And maybe I'm doing it wrong by trying to play games without reading tutorials, but it seems pretty simple. It's just I have some questions that, you know, it would behoove a line or two in the rule book rather than in some kind of extended example of play, which is what the tutorial is. So let's go to the sequence of play, and the first thing we get is our income phase. Hey, that's pretty easy. We get our money. So everybody's going to get 50 bucks. We can do that right quickly. 1, 2, 3, Event cards phase. Well, we deal out the event cards, but I really ought to look at players' events before I go any further, because from what I recall of them, you can kind of play them whenever the hell you like. I'm glad I looked. A lot of people had a card which actually applies here, the Alchemist, that doubles your income for one turn. So everybody got an extra 50 bucks. Seems to me, not everybody, but many of the players grabbed an extra 50 bucks. It seems to me that that's a valuable time to grab it right at the beginning. Even though your money's probably at the least it's going to be, still, yeah, this is when having a little edge and a smaller edge in money might be most important. Alright, we're going to take a little break before the event cards. Okay, so 6 players in the game, I dealt out 6 event cards. They all get flipped up. Get to see what's all up here. I hope these are the events. Lots of monasteries. I wonder if I shuffled well. City rights. That's place a city. Monastery is place a monastery. Relic is you get a relic. If you buy that, master builder is a castle. Okay, so it looks like nothing is going to break the peace here, unless somebody has a card which would do so. I don't remember anyone having such. First player's over here. He has first bid. And are these done in order? Well, that's not specified, is it? Not yet it is. So the first card with at least 10 ducats if I won it. So for 10 ducats, red could open the bidding on a castle. Now, red's position is kind of centralized. Well, they've got a central position here, and a couple of external. Card-wise, I have a bitch in the woods, which allows me to change a death check into a birth. Well, I don't see anything I terribly want here with a castle. On the other hand, a castle gives you a certain defensive advantage. If I could put that over here in Wurzburg, it might be useful to me. I think it's worth a 10 bid. Unfortunately, what I have to do is I have to exchange my money and put that 10 bid out front. And now everybody can see I have 10 bucks. Of course, they know I have more than that. Question then is, you know, how much is this worth for other people who might want something else? These things all produce income one way or another. City rights maybe not. That only produces income if you have the trade route set up. So that's a little less valuable. But it's kind of hard to decide what the value of a castle is on a first playing. It's going to give me a -1 to all the attackers to hit rolls, which, you know, is pretty appealing. So let's look at yellow's position. Yellow could create a little Bootplug at Munster or some such. So it sounds pretty good to them. I think it's the only castle out there. Yellow says it's worth 20 bucks. Green, well, green's ecclesiastical, and this damn thing, it will not stick. I'm going to be gluing these. It's pretty clear. And again, you know, damn wooden blocks with sticker on them. Now, what I don't know is which one's my ecclesiastical territory. But I can tell by looking here, it's Augsburg over here. That might be worth 30 bucks. I don't know. I pass on it. Brown, interested in a castle. What's our ecclesiastical is Strasbourg over here. It's exposed. I'm going to say, yeah, maybe it's worth 30 bucks. Yeah, he's going to go with the 30 for it. And this is kind of the way I do opening bids in an XX game. Which isn't always the brightest thing, but I put a little bit of, you know, knowledge of what I should do in that. And I have to try to remember, I think it's after the events that we auction off the itinerant bishop or whatever. Over here, gray, well, I don't know where he's going to be. And we're going to keep going around until only one person has a remaining bid. Blue got the castle with a bid of 40. We'll grab ourselves, some of these are peeling too. I mean, it's just horrible. They get their castle, they're going to put it over here at Galsburg or whatever that is. And I think I was thinking about mentioning this. I know I did prior about the sticking things out. You know, things pop out of the board kind of. Well, here we're beginning to see what I'm talking about. If these were control markers were just counters, then the armies would really jump out at you and you'd see, hey, I got armies there. As it is, though, I've just got squares everywhere and they have different meanings. And you might as well just use counters everywhere for that. There's really no advantage to using these wooden blocks. And I think in terms of design decisions, this was a horrible choice. They should have made more counter sheets, less wooden blocks. Probably the control markers should be counters. The wooden blocks should be things that really kind of jump out at you. I would also say just about everything here should be counters as well. Let the armies be the thing that jump out and talk to you. But hey, what do I know? I don't run production for games. I wouldn't know stuff like that, right? I just play them. Okay, so now we go to yellow, who has first bid on a relic. This is the only relic out there. The nice thing about a relic is it has a defensive advantage as well as an economic advantage. So it's a little better than the monastery for that. I have room for it in Munster. Maybe I actually want to open my bid higher than 10 for this because it looks like one of the better cards. There's a lot of monasteries available. Everybody can pick up one of them, right? Went up high on the monastery. 80 bucks. Brown picks it up for. The relic. And now we get a little relic and we see that it too is peeling. Great. And that goes in Gratzberg, if I can find that. No, brown. Is that this? That is this. And you can also see the pieces quickly start cluttering the board up. That puts us to the third player, which is green. There are a bunch of monasteries available. Oh, I gotta worry. The relic comes with an advantage. I get a prayer marker for that. I only have one relic, so I do not get that, right? That's what this means, I think. Jesus. Yeah, greater than 2 of something. If I recall correctly, it's relics, but the image doesn't really tell us that. I'm assuming that's what it is because they're a very small number of relics. Oh, you know what I haven't recorded? I haven't recorded the trade income, which I should have collected. So red, for example, here has 10 bucks in trade income, and so I gotta look for, is that this? I think this is the money. I gotta look for something. I have less of these than I expected. Is it this? No, that's hands. Oh wait, no, this is hands. So this must be what it is. Okay. And that has a plus 100 on the other side. And that means my red income is 60. and I actually have 10 bucks more there. And I have to try to balance that out for everyone. So yellow, for example, here has 10, 20 for these two. Looks like 30, another one for there. And the other yellow city's too far away. So yellow will be over here at 30. Their income goes up to 80 and they get 30 bucks more. And I'll try to equalize the rest of those and then decide what the bidding is on these monasteries. I miscalculated yellow. I gave them 10, 20, I think. Wait a minute. 10, 20, 30. They should be 40 going off to Bergen, so I gave them the extra, or whatever that is. I gave them the extra money for that. I got to be careful because these off maps not necessarily very clear. I saw that with the brown one coming off, I think. And this is going to be a headache to keep track of these values as I go. And then another factor in play is, hey, there's a card based on this. The Master of Trade, which is worth a couple of these points, and then it also gives you an electoral position. It doesn't give you possession of the electorate, which means you're not going to get the 50 bucks or whatever a turn, but you do get an extra 20 bucks of income for holding this, which is going to just get handed to someone as additional money that I didn't have when I started this bidding, and I should have. Master of Trade card is going to end up at yellow because they have this, and they should have collected an extra 20 bucks in income for that. I don't think anybody's decision has been based on, gee, I'm really low on money. We saw some pretty high bids go out, so just a thing. But there's going to be a lot of fiddling with this, and especially with the calculation of these. So, you know, I mean, brown one, 10 bucks for this, make it 20 for that, and then I gotta find the other brown. And here's another thing: as these castles and maybe some of these relics and other stuff show up, they look kind of like the gray pieces, so you start, you know, focusing in on, oh, there's grayish looking stuff kicking around in places. So again, the design presentation of the color scheme, the appearance of it all, that all starts to get you kind of messy. It opens up with a 40 bid on the first monastery. Well, with 2 more monasteries to come, that seems a little high, but it lets them buy it for cheap. They can swap someone between the 2 educations if I have a need for a particular education. Now, notably, I can't put that monastery in Augsburg, but I can put it in any of my other territories. I'm green. Where do I want to put it? Well, this is sort of my most defensible position in terms of, you know, I've got support back there, but I think I'm going to put it way out here where nobody else really is. Now, it's not like somebody can't get there, so maybe that's not such a brilliant idea. At least here I've got some defenses in place. Yeah, let's put it down here in Graubünden. And that gets me an additional 10 bucks in income. I'm green. Now I don't collect that because I just added that. Uh-oh. So somebody got a relic, right? Let's look for that relic and recalculate their income. That's brown. I may have given them extra money based on that relic, and I got to take that away if I did. The monasteries went for higher, with the last one going for 70, so that big 40 bid to begin with was a good move. Of course, we don't know what these are worth, but the only thing that was potentially worth more was that relic, and that I believe went for a decent amount as well. So at least there's that. Now, the final card is the city rights, and this is particularly valuable to certain players. The one that highlights the brightest here is yellow, who can put it here where it connects to both of these, and I'd get 20 extra bucks off that. I'd get more if I can get more cities up there and create a real little urban section, but right now it's worth 20 bucks a turn, which is twice what the monastery is worth. Now the monastery doesn't, if I recall correctly, give me any bonus in combat, unlike castles and the itinerant preacher. So it's not as good as some of these things, and it doesn't have room for a relic, but I am definitely very interested in it. Now the question is, what about other people? You know, like blue, well, I only get 10 bucks right now, but if I expand, I'll be getting more money off of it. So to everyone, there's sort of a, those trade route money makers could be a bigger deal than the normal money makers, and that's just kind of a, yeah, we don't know what it's going to go for. Yellow got it kind of cheaply for only 70 bucks, which is a pretty good deal. And it's important not just, hey, for the extra money, but also I got a card which someone could eventually take away from me. It wasn't going to happen this time around, but it could happen at another point. Now, actually, hold on. I get 10, 20, I get 30 bucks if I put it here. So we'll do that. So we're becoming quite a bit the trading empire. Now, I should be placing one of these somewhere. It doesn't really matter where I put it. If I get it somewhere else, if I take an elector that I have this on, or if somebody else takes the elector, I get bumped and I get to go to a different place. So it doesn't really too much matter. The electors have their little shields on here. I'm going to go with Bohemia because it's pretty far away from me, and I don't know, for whatever reason that seems more appropriate. Now the last thing that gets auctioned is the itinerant priest, which I think comes back around to the first player to put the first bid on. Now, the fact that this isn't a permanent thing makes it a lot less valuable than perhaps some of the other things, but it gives both a combat and an economic advantage. So it's kind of appealing, but the lack of permanence makes it probably less valuable than any of the other things you could bid on. Gray picked up the itinerant bishop for 30 bucks. This was actually kind of a mistake for blue, I think, or whoever has the relic, but brown, because brown would have 2 or more relics if they had picked that up, and that would get them the Master of Fate, or Faith, who is the most important of these, and is worth a 20 buck income in addition to the Preacher's 10. So that was kind of an error not to bid on that. Now I have to flip through this fake rule book and try to find where I am. Yeah, I hate stapled together crap, but okay. So now we're on the we're on the fate phase, which we look for. Like I said, not a lot of table space here because this has a fair footprint. Each player gets to roll a die and see what happens in turn order. All right, well, let's look and see what happens for red. Red can kill a bishop or lord. Well, this isn't terribly useful to me. I could kill an elector. That doesn't help at all. A bishop or a lord doesn't really help me unless nobody has a capability to expand into that area. Well, that's interesting. So this Burgundy is only adjacent to me. So if I kill Burgundy, we take a look at 8.3, 4, and 5, I guess. Okay, death of a lord. If there's 2 or more players who can claim a right of succession, the appropriate territory will be auctioned. Now, after it goes, other players with troops adjacent may intervene using the war procedure. And again, that seems to just freeze the game as the war is quickly handled, and then you move on to peace, which is just the general status here. So I'm going to kill Burgundy, and if nobody plays a right of succession there, then I guess we all get to bid on it. Right? But it's only adjacent to me, which means that I could go to war very easily and just take it. That means that probably nobody else is interested in bidding on it, although what's not clear here is all other players with troops in adjacent territories may intervene with war. Yeah, so I'm the only person who could war into this, so I'm going to put a 10 bid on it, and I think it's just basically mine. There's nothing anyone can do about it. Now, I have to take a profane lord, assuming Burgundy is profane, and I have to hunt it out of here. You see, we paw through them all. Slippery cards. I'm in favor of slippery cards in general. They shuffle better. And there's Burgundy. So, that's going to add 10 to my income. And then I have a trade route, which adds 10 to my trade and 10 more to my income. So that's pretty cool. And I've expanded. Now we go to the next player, which is yellow, and they get to roll. And they too get to kill someone off. Well, in the same sort of way, now we got to be careful that we don't go for bishoprics here, I think, because if we kill a bishop, the territory is auctioned off. There's no right of succession cards, but again, enemy troops. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's an ability to fight over this. Oh no, yes. Afterwards, if you're adjacent, you can use the war procedure if you made a bid. So, yellow would also like to expand, and what's particularly important to me is I think pushing in this direction, but I'll tell you this much. Although this gets me adjacent here, there's no economic connection, so why do that? I can do Oldenburg, which connects economically to like 3 of my territories, so I'm going to get a lot of income off that. And no one else is able to intervene there, so again, I can put a 10 bid in. I have a profane, oh, Oldenburg may be a bishopric. It is not. So now I look through here for Oldenburg, and I'll be back later. Okay, so now I've lost track of where I am on income, and I have to recalculate yellow's income entirely. I can look at this. This is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. We'll go to there. We'll look at what they have here. This connects 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and now this one is 100 in the trade. So I add another 100 to here, I think. I look at this yellow piece and say, no, that's not really one of mine. That's somebody else's, even if it looks like it's my color. Bad choice there again. But no shock. And I don't get anything off of this, If I owned it, I would get a pile of money. And that puts us then to the green player. You can see the components are getting in the way here. Okay, this is the birth of a child. Well, let's check my cards, make sure I have nothing I really want. I get to drop a kid either here in the profane or up here. I'm going to give them religious because I've already got 3 there. And then we'll push to brown. You can see this, doesn't necessarily equal out. This could be a big luck thing, like getting that 1, 2, or 3 is a big deal at this point. 4, birth of a child for brown. I'll take profane because numerically there's just more of them. Gray. Gray gets to contest somewhere. Now here it's adjacent to blue, so I probably don't want to do that there. I don't want to do, I can't do Bohemia, and I have to remember this. The places with shields I'm not going to be able to do by targeting. I could randomize, but that seems risky at best. So the one place that I can go into looks like it's Meissen. So that's what I'm going to do. And for 10 bucks, I can buy my way into there. Okay, well, I got Meissen. I don't remember what. I had something else I wanted to say, but I've forgotten that. And moved on. Blue got the same event, the expansion event. Unfortunately for Blue, they're close to people everywhere. Bonk, 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 bonk. These are all adjacent to someone else's pieces. And this is problematic because, well, it's a contested bidding, and then beyond that I may have to fight a war with someone. But then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not sure. So I have this little counting that I got some trade income off of, right? I got 10 off this, but there should be another 10 off here, and then, is that all I have? There should be another 10. So I'm 10 bucks off on my initial income for Blue, and there's 10 more bucks I should have over here. Just because, hey, not only does this route up this way, but it also squeezes through down here to this town going through here, I think, if I can read the map. And again, the presentation of this game is just a fucking mess. It could have been made much simpler somehow or another. Anyway, I don't know where to go now. What I think I want to do is open this guitar or whatever into play, and I'm assuming that's profane. It sure looks it. So then what would happen is, let's say Gray bids on it, and of course they get their bid back, although that's not explained in the rules. Maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe you always pay your bid, which would make sense in some cases because you're kind of, bribing family members and giving them money for support and whatever. So in terms of, trying to equate this to what's actually going on, that money probably would be spent. But again, without describing what an auction really is and explaining it, one goes to the default, which is that at an auction you don't pay unless you get something. But there are forms of auctioning where you pay whether you get it or not. And again, it would be nice to spell it out, especially when you start to consider what the auction probably represents. It would make sense that you pay. Anyway, let's look at this. So let's say I open this up. Well, if I win it, I'm allowed by the rules here to move, I think it's 1 knight and 2 mercenaries in as guards. And then someone can use the war procedure. Now the war procedure, I assume, is just to contest this one conquest. This one taking of a territory through a diplomatic means or whatever. I don't think it opens up the ability to fight everywhere or anything like that. Although historically, of course, some of these wars blasted into larger engagements. That does not seem to be part of this game, but again, it isn't explicitly spelled out that it's not. But trying to limit what's going on to what's at least explicitly, at least what seems to be implied by the rules, and nothing more than that. Not trying to draw upon knowledge of what would be happening in some circumstances. I think we're led to the assumption that, hey, this gives me only the opportunity to intervene in that territory. In which case, of course, gray is at a significant disadvantage, kind of whether they win or lose the bid. Therefore, blue is going to take Gitsmark or whatever, and we'll grab that out. It's a Himsmim Gitsmark. That looks like it's what it is. Unfortunately, so here's the thing. It would be easier to find the locations if the shields were on the map, but those shields would have to be distinguished from the shields of the electorates, and it might make this map too busy, so that's not something I'm going to disagree with too much. But anyway, I throw a $10 bid in, and now really gray's at the option of, well, gee, you know, what do I have here? I have a Death Abroad. I could remove one child in a profane education, but that doesn't sound worthwhile. I could spend $50 and get myself another mercenary, and then I'd have more troops. But I can ask blue how many cards he has. I can't ask him how much money, and he has 2 cards. So for $100 he could get 2 mercenaries, and I really couldn't easily beat that. So I'm going to let him have that for the $10. Of course, there just really isn't much I can do about that. Now, that increases his... he could have gone up against green, but green has troops on multiple fronts. That increases his income by $10, but there's no trade routes going into there from territory he controls. And I'm kind of putting the squeeze on gray here, although I don't have a lot of troops there to do much with it. Now that gets us through the fate phase, I guess, and we're on the movement phase. In the movement phase, we don't have... oh, here we go. In turn order, you can move the itinerant preacher and the troops as far as you like, due to the Reichsfrieden, which seems to, again, be always in application during this stage in the game. I can also push relics around. I probably put the relics where I want them. But then here's the question, you know, what does red want to do? Well, this with its monastery is worth as much as that. So I don't know if I'm terribly weaker there. Do I want to just abandon this? I think I kind of do, simply for the fact that I don't think I can defend this territory. Of course, that means that now it's going to be eligible for someone else to intervene in, but you know, you got to cut your losses, and it looks like that's going to be hard to protect. And that's the decision making I'm going to make everywhere here. Yellow, well, they're still not really adjacent to anyone, although they are here, so I'm going to slide a unit there. And I'll just fiddle around with that kind of stuff. I think the first player marker or whatever shifts over to here, but somewhere you're supposed to get some cards. Oh, I bet you this is the action card phase. Okay, hold on. I missed that. I'm trying to flip through the rules here. Action card phase, everybody takes 1, and then they have the opportunity to use them. So let's just pull one. By the some of the shifting, I noticed that gray didn't have troops here, which means they couldn't have expanded here for free, I think, because you'd have to have troops adjacent to the territories to intervene. We're going to pretend he had something there. He would have set up a little differently, and since I screwed up on that, you know, kind of fuck it, right? This is just a learning game, and I don't want to try to undo stuff. that's of minimal effect, he would have set up so that he had access to new lands if I had realized what the mechanisms were test. And that's why people have pulled out. So for example, blue has pulled out of Nassau. You know, I'm just not going to be able to play in that area. I'm going to concentrate on building up here. And this is why it's great if you start off with a handful of stuff that's near each other. So yellow's got this potent position, and everybody's got to, and brown as well, and everybody's got to kind of figure out, is there anything they can do to hurt these players? And so far, yeah, there's some event cards or action cards that you can do so. Anyway, let's take a look, see what yellow picks. They get a Death Abroad. They could kill somebody. I don't know, you know, pick on yellow, right? A Crusade. Remove all knights in one fiefdom. Cannot be played in combat. So before I started a combat, I could play that Crusade, clear somebody out, and then of course maybe, you know, whatever's going on that would cause the combat wouldn't happen. But it might actually, because when combat starts is sort of not terribly well defined. So in the middle of the bidding process, as soon as I win the bid, I might clear somebody out with a Crusade, and then combat hasn't actually started yet. So these things aren't really clearly delineated, and I don't see how, you know, how different that really is from being able to play cards and get mercenaries just before combat, which is actually specified in the rule. Miracle Healer. Prevent a death by die roll on the fate table. Play after the affected lord or bishop has been announced. Sounds useful. Mercenary. It's just a cheaper way to get a merc. Pestilence. Choose a player who is excluded from the ongoing auction. That's kind of neat. And finally, the bitch in the woods again. Which is kind of cool. All right, and now this does indeed move. Now we've made it through a whole turn. I'm going to load this sucker up.